Forget everything you thought you knew about Thanksgiving's impact. While you're carving that turkey, billions of dollars are moving, but not where you might think. Every November, while families gather to give thanks, something much larger happens behind the scenes. A vast, continent-spanning transfer of money, goods, and opportunity. And here's the twist. The economic heartbeat of Thanksgiving doesn't echo evenly across the Americas. In North America, Thanksgiving launches an economic explosion. In South America, it barely registers. But what if I told you this quiet difference hides a deeper story? One about culture, history, and how the simple act of giving thanks can reveal the pulse of entire economies. This is Unveiling Thanksgiving's economic impact, North versus South. Let's start by asking, why is a holiday built on gratitude such an economic powerhouse? Thanksgiving, at its core, was never about money. It began as a harvest celebration, a moment to pause, reflect, and appreciate abundance. But over time, abundance became consumption. In the US, Thanksgiving now represents one of the most significant consumer events of the year. The National Retail Federation reported that in 2023, American consumers spent nearly $960 billion during the holiday season. And it all begins with Thanksgiving week. From grocery chains to airlines, the ripple effect touches almost every corner of the economy. Grocery stores prepare for months. Turkey production ramps up by early summer. In 2023, over 46 million turkeys were sold in the US alone. The logistics of getting all those birds, cranberries, and pies onto tables nationwide is a multi-billion-dollar dance. But let's not forget, not all Thanksgivings are created equal, even within the North. Canada celebrates its Thanksgiving much earlier, on the second Monday of October. Its roots date back to 1578, when English explorer Martin Frobisher held a ceremony in Newfoundland to give thanks for surviving a dangerous voyage. In contrast, the United States formalized its Thanksgiving during the Civil War in 1863, when President Abraham Lincoln proclaimed it a national holiday to promote unity in a divided nation. So, while the themes are similar, harvest, gratitude, family, the timing and economic consequences are not. Canada's Thanksgiving, coming earlier, doesn't ignite a massive shopping frenzy. It's largely a family-centered holiday without the retail aftershock that shakes the US economy every November. But south of that border, a very different story unfolds. When it comes to economic impact, the US Thanksgiving isn't just big, it's colossal. The grocery surge alone is massive. A 2024 survey found that the average American household spends about $325 on Thanksgiving dinner, with higher-income households spending nearly twice that. Add in wine, decor, and entertainment, and the total climbs even higher. But the true economic magic begins once the leftovers are sealed. Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, has become a global retail phenomenon. Originally coined by Philadelphia police in the 1960s to describe the chaotic crowds that flooded stores, it's now synonymous with one of the largest sales events on the planet. In 2024, Americans spent over $9.8 billion online on Black Friday alone, and $12 billion on Cyber Monday, the biggest online shopping day in history. Combine that with in-store sales, and the total Thanksgiving weekend spending approaches $100 billion in just 4 days. Retailers plan for this all year. It's not just discounts, it's data. Algorithms track consumer behavior months in advance to predict what products will drive the most clicks and carts. But the Thanksgiving economy isn't just about shopping, it's about movement. The American Automobile Association reported that over 55 million people traveled during Thanksgiving week in 2023, the highest number since tracking began. Airlines sold out flights, Amtrak added carriages, and highway rest stops turned into pop-up markets. Hotels, restaurants, and even small gas stations see huge revenue boosts. For many rural towns, this single weekend can account for a significant portion of their yearly income, and the cultural halo extends to entertainment. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City generates an estimated $25 million for the local economy, not counting national advertising revenue. Now, shift that lens slightly north to Canada. Canadian Thanksgiving is smaller, quieter, and more regionally varied. It boosts grocery and travel spending too, but on a much smaller scale. There's no Black Friday surge right after. though Canadian retailers now align their promotions with the American one to compete for consumer attention. In Canada, the big spending moment arrives later, Boxing Day on December 26th, a legacy of British tradition. So within the same continent, Thanksgiving has two personalities, one that sparks a global shopping wave, and another that remains a moment of peaceful gratitude before winter's commercial crescendo. Now, cross the equator, and the contrast becomes stark. In most of South America, Thanksgiving isn't even on the calendar. There's no official holiday, no mass migration home, no synchronized consumer boom. The reason lies in history and culture. Thanksgiving evolved from Protestant harvest rituals, something largely absent in the Catholic-majority societies of South America. Instead, gratitude and community find expression in other ways, often through massive public celebrations that make Thanksgiving look modest by comparison. Take Brazil's Carnival, for example. Every February or March, the country virtually stops for 5 days of parades, music, and street parties. In 2024, Carnival in Rio alone generated $1.1 billion USD in revenue from tourism, hotels, food, and merchandise. Across Brazil, the total impact exceeded $2 billion. Or consider Argentina's Christmas and New Year's season, which drives intense spending in food, gifts, and travel, often surpassing 5% of total annual retail sales. Then there's Peru's Fiestas Patrias, celebrating independence each July. In Lima, it injects hundreds of millions into the local economy, filling hotels and restaurants and spiking domestic travel. So while Thanksgiving is a North American trigger for private family spending, South American holidays generate public, collective spending, with tourism, entertainment, and culture at the forefront. Of course, globalization is changing that. Black Friday has crossed borders. Retailers in Chile, Colombia, and Brazil now run November sales to mirror the US model. In 2024, Latin American e-commerce sales on Black Friday reached nearly $5 billion, led by Brazil and Mexico. But despite growing adoption, the cultural foundation isn't the same. For many South Americans, Black Friday is an opportunity, not a tradition. It's marketing, not meaning. That's what makes the contrast so revealing. Two halves of a hemisphere expressing gratitude through entirely different economic behaviors. Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture, how these holiday traditions shape long-term economic cycles. In the United States, Thanksgiving doesn't just start the holiday season, it defines it. Retailers set their fiscal calendars around it. Marketing campaigns, supply chains, and shipping, logistics, all revolve around that final Thursday in November. Thanksgiving also affects imports and exports. The U.S. imports wine from Chile, fruits from Mexico, and even flowers from Colombia for the season. South America, in turn, benefits from these supply chains, indirectly participating in the North's holiday economy. Meanwhile, in South America, major holidays like Carnival and Christmas define entirely different spending rhythms, focusing more on experiences, travel, and communal events. Globalization, however, is blending these patterns. The rise of e-commerce, international streaming platforms, and global advertising has blurred cultural and economic lines. A Chilean consumer might now participate in Cyber Monday. A Canadian retailer might start Christmas deals in November. A U.S. supermarket might stock Peruvian asparagus for Thanksgiving dinner. The result is a subtle convergence, one where global commerce begins to synchronize across cultures, even if the emotional meanings of holidays remain distinct. But will this trend continue? Some economists think yes, that as online shopping transcends borders, holiday economies will merge into a continuous global cycle. Others argue that cultural identity will always keep certain traditions, and their economic ripples, unique. So, what have we uncovered? Thanksgiving in North America isn't just a holiday, it's a financial ecosystem. It moves goods, fuels travel, creates jobs, and triggers spending patterns that ripple through global markets. In South America, by contrast, the absence of Thanksgiving doesn't mean absence of gratitude. It means gratitude is expressed differently, through public joy, celebration, and cultural unity, not consumption-driven frenzy. Both systems, the private gratitude of the North and the public celebration of the South, tell us something profound, that the way we celebrate reveals the way we spend, and the way we spend reveals what we value most. In the US and Canada, Thanksgiving is about home, family, and comfort. And that translates into retail, food, and travel. In South America, festivals celebrate community, music, and national identity. And that translates into tourism, service industries, and entertainment. Both create economic gravity, pulling billions of dollars into motion. And as our world grows more connected, these different rhythms might begin to harmonize, not replace each other, but dance together in the global marketplace. So, as you sit down to your next Thanksgiving dinner, or dance in your next carnival parade, remember that you're part of something much larger, the global gratitude equation. A reminder that our cultures don't just define who we are, they define how we move the world's money. I'd love to hear from you. How does gratitude, or celebration, fuel your country's economy? What holiday shapes your nation's biggest economic surge? Leave your thoughts below, and if you found this fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the economics of culture, tradition, and humanity. Because now you know, behind every feast lies a fortune. No more. Be more.